So what's the deal? Like, are financial advisors even worth it? Like, what do they even do? Are they just there to like hold your hand through money stuff or something? Or
Yeah. I don't know. My net worth probably doesn't, just to be completely transparent, my net worth probably doesn't justify hiring a financial advisor, which if they're a financial advisor and hearing that, they're probably like, yes, it does. It absolutely does. I'm like, I don't know. I can manage my own money at this point. Maybe one day. Um, what do you think?
well, obviously, my question in the beginning was a bit facetious. I do think that they're important, but I think that there's probably a lot of people in the world that are probably wondering that question. What do they even
Yeah.
do? Is it even important? Um, I would I would say for the average person, the average person that's in debt up to their eyeballs and stuff, like, yeah, you don't really need a financial advisor, but like for the
Right.
average person that's trying to um, build wealth and build a plan and plan for retirement that just doesn't care about the stock market, doesn't want to learn, just wants to know that their money's at work, then like there is a lot of value in having a financial advisor. Um, and truthfully, for me, like it's something that I plan on
Do you
having.
have oh, not yet. Okay. That's what I
Yeah,
was
so
going to
I,
ask if you had one.
I don't have one at this current moment. I'm not investing right now. We're in full kind of like rebuild emergency fund stage.
Mhm.
And so I'm not investing a ton at this current moment. But I think I've mentioned to you, I do have a really close friend of mine who is
Sure.
a financial advisor. And so my plan is to, when I get to the point where emergency funds where I want it to be, and it's just kind of full steam ahead retirement investing, I'm going to turn a lot of the keys over to him just so it's one less thing that I
That
think
you have
about
to
because I
try and
trust
keep
him.
up on and educate yourself on. And yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like any other service, right? And if you're, I mean, I guess it kind of comes down to, not to oversimplify here, but it comes down to what you're good at and where you want to invest your time that produces the greatest results. And if that is in kind of like the financial world, then you probably don't need a financial advisor. But if it's in another industry, if I can use that term, like sales, like what we're in, then maybe you want to hone your skills at sales and really invest a bunch of your time and energy into sales or whatever industry instead of like trying to, figure out the whole financial world. I
Yeah.
mean, I could see an argument
I
for
mean,
both, I guess.
it maybe is a little bit like the question, um, is a landscape company worth it? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
it's so hard to answer that question black and white because it's nuanced for every person. Some
Right.
people, just don't love cutting grass and doing yard work. And so the idea of
Yeah.
paying somebody else to do that, get it out of the way, do it.
Yeah.
Like you said,
And
just like any
and
other service.
if you're a net worth of however many millions or whatever, you're like, well, I could just pay somebody to do this, and it's 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 negligible cost. So in the same
Yeah.
way, financial advisor, I guess, kind of might be somewhat like that.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in having a second set of eyes on, and you can
That's
do that
valid.
through other ways, but to me, like to run with the landscaping analogy, like I'm not somebody that really cares about my lawn and the way it looks. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I've got a lawnmower. I cut it myself, over the summers. It takes me about 30 minutes every week.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not obsessed over it, right? Not something I
Dude,
really care about.
honestly,
I don't,
like this is gonna
but
sound weird, but we live in Arizona now, and this is totally off topic, but whatever. We don't have a lawn because nobody has lawns here in Arizona. Because I mean, some people do, and it's insane. But the point is I actually really kind of miss taking care of a lawn. It's almost kind of like therapeutic in some ways. You
oh, I
know,
love it.
like
Yeah.
put my headphones in, go disconnect from the rest of the world. I'm just me and the lawnmower, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. I love it. And where I was going with that was like, because I don't really care about my lawn like looking perfect,
Yeah,
then I'm okay with me being mediocre at that and just kind of like accepting it. But with money, I
yeah,
really I want it to be, not that
That's
it can
so
be
true.
perfect, but I want it to be perfect. I want my money making the most amount of money that's
Mhm.
possible. And even, when you start dealing with firms and financial advisors, sometimes they have access to investments and funds that like we don't have access to.
Mhm.
Especially when you're getting, your net worth keeps getting higher as well. Like and there's more money to invest. There's more at stake, and so I want a
Right.
second set of eyes, somebody who's like, I'm thinking about my friend. I mean, he is the type of person that obsesses over the stock market every single day of his life. That's the type of person that I want.
Are you talking about me, or
No, I'm talking about my friend.
it was kind of a joke?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
like,
I
I am
missed
your
that.
friend who obsesses over the stock market.
It went right over my head. You do that. But yeah, like that's the type of person that I want managing my money, because I trust
Right.
him to like get the most out of it the same way that he would with his. And
Right.
so I don't know. It's I guess like, I don't know. I mean, a financial advisor in my mind, is more about like your investments and your retirement, right? And not like every
Sure.
day, tracking your expenses and, helping you budget. I guess they can do that. Do they do that?
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they would have like tips and hey, I mean, honestly, like by the time you need a financial advisor, like legitimately need one, I imagine you're already good at budgeting. I would, I would think. I mean,
Yeah, I would think.
so I mean, and I mean, you can get free budgeting education or any financial, not advice, but education, anywhere you need. And so that's why for me, again, at this point, the things can change. And this is why we always say it's like it's nuanced. There's different seasons of life, of course. And at this point in my life, I'm like, well, I don't need a financial advisor. Like I know what I want to do with my money. And hopefully it's the best decision. Would a financial advisor advise differently? Maybe, but I also don't need to pay him, you know, however many thousands of dollars that they're going to charge me for commissions or fees or whatever it ends up being in order for me to just dump money into the stock market or whatever it ends up being, or an IRA or whatever. I mean, I can like, they're going to, at this point in my life, like they're going to tell me to do, I would think, what I'm already doing. Now, again, maybe I'm ignorant in that, right? I have to be self aware and think like maybe I'm completely ignorant in that. But by and large, even like our company, they offer some. I think they are technically financial advisors, right? And I've met with them twice now or something, just to kind of pick their brain on things. And they basically just tell me the same thing that I'm already doing. I'm like, I don't want to be in bonds. Like I want to be in equities. I want to be in stocks. Like I'm young enough at the point where like it doesn't matter. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, so why would I pay somebody to tell me to do something that I'm already doing? Doesn't make sense.
Good point. Well, and I guess there's
But again, my net worth maybe doesn't warrant. Again, just full disclosure, my net worth probably doesn't warrant like needing to pay somebody at this point.
there if there were, access to like funds that, we couldn't access and that sort of thing, which I know to be the case. Not maybe not with every financial advisor, but with my friend who is one, like he's told me like, hey, if you invest your money with me, like I have kind of like institutional funds that are not available, to you or the everyday
Sure.
public, that you can't just like go on Schwab and invest in, that have a track record of outperforming, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so
Mhm.
like, even if they're charging you 1% on a yearly basis, if you're, if you're, if your money is performing higher, even 2% higher than the
Mhm.
average, then it's worth it. Like you're making more money even if you're paying them. Um, it's less about like a matter of like, do we need, and more like just do you want based on your circumstances,
Yeah, and maybe not even just do you want, but is it best based off of your circumstances? Um, yeah, I had a thought and kind of around what you were talking, and it was like, I mean, I think by and large, like, yes, if you want to get more niche, like maybe it's good to have a financial advisor and pay somebody to do it. I don't know, man. I'm just not. Again, this is maybe ignorant speaking. I'm going to be self aware with that and just upfront, but it just feels to me, it's like you're paying for something that they're going to tell me to do anyways. And sure, maybe they have access to, a fund that performs 1 or 2
Yeah.
or 3 or whatever percent better. But you're, paying them 1% annually plus commissions on top of that or something like that.
One thing I think you
Um,
might be just kind of like, ignorance not the right word, but just like, I know you're one of the, you know, um, most disciplined people I know. Not everybody has that level of discipline, and having a
sure.
financial advisor can kind of be like an accountability piece for
Yeah.
some people,
Good.
to make sure that you're investing, but also to be a hedge of protection against like emotion driven decisions around the stock market and
Sure.
like pulling money out, because you are
Because there's
scared.
tariffs and the stock market's
Yeah.
down
And then
15% or whatever.
you just pull your whole retirement account out because you and go invest it in gold. Like, it-
Yeah.
for some people, they don't have that level of discipline to be able to not do that. And so a financial
See, and
advisor
that's
can
that's
be
that's a fundamental issue with somebody's belief around the stock market, in my opinion. I'm like, dude, if it goes down, I'm like, let's buy. I'm like, tight, it's on sale. Now
it's
I
on
have a
sale.
little extra capital. Dump it in, baby. Let's go. That's kind of my like I remember in COVID, like that's kind of how my whole journey in the stock market, frankly, and getting exposed to a lot of this stuff. That's where it was for me. I had a little bit of capital sitting on the side, just literally just cash, and I was honestly just waiting for something to happen. And then COVID happened, and it dumped like whatever percent it dumped. I mean, it was like 20 or I can't even remember. I can pull it up and it wouldn't take long, but nonetheless, it was a lot. And I was like, cool. Here's my opportunity, and I just put a bunch of money in, and then it recovered so quickly. Right now, that's not always the case, of course. Right now, frankly, I'm looking at the stock market right now, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is sweet right now. As we're down, like the high of 630, well, 60, 6,100 on the S&P, and now it's down at 5,200 somewhere around there, 5,100. Like it's down 100 or 1,000 points. Like that's a lot. I'm like, dude, tight, let's go, and just shovel it all in. And maybe it takes. I mean, maybe it doesn't have the. But again, I'm getting off topic now. Um, for me, like that's how I view like a crash, and I still have a bunch of money sitting there in the stock market and everything, but I'm not like pulling it out. I don't care. I'm just looking at this like, sweet, here we go. I don't know. So I mean, I guess really what it comes down to is like, hey, if you're already pretty okay at managing money and not spending everything you make, do you think there's like still a point in getting an advisor? I think we've kind of hashed it out a little
100%.
bit, but
Yeah, we've talked
you
about
think so?
that already. Kind of, I think like 100%. It depends on your circumstance. Like, I
Sure.
am ridiculously disciplined with money and like and have goals, accomplishing them, but like I'm still planning on having a financial advisor,
Hmm.
And the point in that for me is make as much money as possible, not have to think about on a like every 2 week basis, okay, I've got to go in, make sure I, you know, either deposit the money, or if it's automatically deposited, make sure I go in and make the transactions, buy
Hmm.
I just take the
So
money.
at what point, because you've mentioned a couple times you're not there yet, at what point does warranting getting a financial advisor, at what point
It'll
do
probably
you get
happen
it?
the second that our um, emergency fund hits my goal, my kind of
Okay.
3 to 6 month goal. That's the only
Okay.
reason because right as it stands right now, I'm putting 5% in my work 401k, getting my
Hmm.
4% match out of that, which is
Hmm.
automatically invested. And then I'm getting, for my wife, she has 6.25% taken out for hers. That's
Hmm.
automatically going, being invested. But we're not investing anything on top of that right now. Like every
Hmm. Okay.
spare dollar is going to getting
And
our emergency fund to 3 to 6
okay.
months, which just is a comfort thing for us.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Security.
and my number for that's probably about 25,000, I think, is kind of my
Yeah.
goal. If I can get to 25,000, I'm going to stop. And then every spare dollar at that point is just going to go to an investment
Hmm.
account. I have
So
no
so
interest in
I have another
stacking
question.
cash.
I have another question about like financial advisors specifically, just from your perspective. When so you get to the 25,000, whatever. Um, then you're like, hey, let's start getting financial advisors. Sounds like you're pretty much set on one in particular already, which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a friend, you have a relationship with them. Trust is absolutely essential when it comes to, I mean, anything, but especially finances, I would say. Um, so then the question becomes like, okay, what are your criteria? I mean, for for you, you have a personal relationship, but for somebody who doesn't, what are the criteria you think for a financial advisor? And frankly, I don't know if I have a great answer for the question. That's why I'm asking.
My answer is going to come right out of the Dave Ramsey playbook.
Okay.
I've just heard him answer this question a lot of times. I mean, my first step, if I didn't know anybody, I'd be going on Ramsey's website and like they have like a Ramsey network of trusted
Mhm.
providers, basically,
Okay.
and it's
Cool.
like they're people that they've vetted. And he has some criteria where it's like, you know, you want someone that is a teacher, like you
Hmm.
want someone who is willing to sit down with you and teach you about where your money's going, what your money's
Hmm.
invested in. You know, you don't want somebody that's just like, just give it to me, trust me. Like, and it doesn't mean that you have to like obsess over the whole thing. You're
Sure.
just learning the basics of like, this is what my money's doing, this is where it's at.
Hmm.
Um, and somebody who, when you call them, is not annoyed by your call, not
Right.
annoyed
Right.
that you're
Right.
checking in. Like you want somebody with,
Hmm.
you know, patience, grace, love. Like you want them to be a humble person. Um, those are some of the qualities. Um, and honestly, probably the best route is just asking around, like word of mouth, kind of like, hey, who has a financial advisor? I'd love to talk to you, that sort of thing. If you don't go the like Ramsey, trusted route.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard. I think most of them
Sure.
are good people and will kind of fit that criteria. But
Yeah. And then, is there ever a point where you say like, hey, like you have to divorce this person as a financial advisor, and what do you think that would be?
I I don't know. I guess crazy things can happen. Um, if you're working with a firm, that like this person is, and that's usually how it goes. Like this advisor is employed by a larger company.
Hmm.
Excuse me. You could theoretically, just try to switch within the company, to a new
Hmm.
advisor, that sort of thing. But I don't know why you would divorce
Well,
unless
if
they make
yeah,
you
like
uncomfortable. Like they're not helpful, they're mean, they're rude. Like,
sure. I guess
you
what I'm
know,
getting at is like if, and the idea is a financial advisor is going to help you beat the market. Um, and the idea there is like if they're not performing, because anything can change, and so I'm just kind of thinking through like, okay, well, hey, if you're not doing your job, why am I paying you when you're not performing? You know what I mean?
yeah, and that's
Maybe I
where it's
sound
definitely.
skeptical. I might sound
Yeah,
skeptical,
I
but
think
that's
you
okay.
are a little skeptical. I mean, I do think there's wisdom in like w- knowing your performance. Like, ask for the copies. You know what I mean? Like, if they're not
Hmm.
giving you the monthly, summary or quarterly summary of your performance, like,
Hmm.
ask for that, and compare it. Like, compare your quarterly summary to the indexes, the major indexes and their performance over, the last quarter or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you're paying somebody 1% and over, 2 to 3 quarters
Hmm.
straight, like they're not beating the S&P 500 or they're even underperforming, the basic markets, then yeah, maybe you start to have a conversation like, hey, dude, what the heck is my money doing? Like, what is it
Yeah.
invested in?
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, you definitely, there's a lot of trust.
Hmm.
Those are the sorts of conversations that I will have. I mean, I have enough knowledge about the market where I'm not going to be naive and just
Sure.
like, hey, do what you want, like I trust you and I'm never going to check in. Like, no, I'm going to be checking in. I want to know what my money's doing.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and again, we don't often, I wouldn't say disagree, because I don't entirely disagree. I guess I don't know.
Well, yeah, and
Does it come down to personality?
we're not
Like, because
disagreeing because like
I
you're
just don't
not
know
you're
that I
not
need a financial advisor. Like I haven't been sold on one yet, you know, and maybe it requires me to actually have a conversation with a financial advisor and get to know one because again, I don't have any trust with any financial advisors. I also really like the financial world, economics. I honestly, frankly, should have majored in economics. I went a different route.
well, and I think I don't think we're arguing over the merits of, and I'm not sitting here trying to convince you that you need one. Like that's not the
Totally.
conversation we're having. And like I said, I don't think it's a matter of need for me. I don't need one. I think I
Hmm.
could take my money for the rest of my life and invest it exactly where, you know, I think it should be. Do a little bit of research on a, monthly basis and be fine and retire, with millions of dollars and be, comfortable. And I think I could do all that without a financial advisor. The question for
Right.
me is, do I want to do that? Like, do I,
Yeah.
and I feel confident that, like, hey, it's one less thing that I have to think about on a regular basis. And you're also not necessarily, at least my understanding in most cases, you're not actually having to like come out of your pocket and pay them. You know what I mean? Obviously you're
Yeah.
paying them. They're
Do
getting
you
money.
know what your particular financial advisor, like what his charges are, what his costs are? Because there could be
Yeah.
different costs. I'm,
I
I'm
mean,
just curious, and that's honestly something that people need to be aware of. Is like, hey, what are different costs when it comes to financial advisors? Because there's a lot of different costs that different ones can charge for different reasons.
yeah, honestly, I'm not sure that I should like even speak to it because I don't know with 100% certainty because we haven't gotten to the point where
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
just like,
Yeah.
break it down exactly how it works. Is it 1% of all my money? Is it 1% of my gains?
Right.
You know what? I, I really have not gotten into the weeds of those conversations yet, and that will happen
Sure.
eventually. And maybe
Yeah.
somebody that's
I guess
watching
just
this or in the comments knows better, but
yeah,
um,
and it just there's part of where I'm coming from when I asked that question is like kind of as I was figuring out what topic to do, I came across a Nerd Wallet article that was posted from this year, 2025. I don't know what the exact date is. Oh, January 3rd. Okay, and like there's different. So this is just what people need to be aware of when interviewing, frankly, financial advisors that there are different costs that are going to be involved in it, whether it's like an annual asset under management fee, like a flat annual or monthly fee. Sometimes they have hourly rates or like a one time financial plan fee. And then for some, they even have commissions. So to me, like just depending on what the fee structure is like, I mean, if it's 1% and done, like I can swallow that. But if it's like 1% and then commissions on top of that, I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
yeah,
So it just
yeah,
kind of
and
depends.
that's where I might be, just truthfully, a bit naive at this stage, like not aware of all the other costs. And maybe there's a time where we sit down to have the conversation, and I'm like, yeah, never mind. I think I'll just,
Sure.
do this myself.
Well,
And
right, and
maybe
that's
maybe
exactly what this
I'm,
podcast is designed for. Is like, hey, like people, because like I don't know everything that goes into it because I've never had a financial advisor, but just with a little bit of research, like, and that's why people need to really put the onus on themselves in a lot of ways and do their own research to find like, okay, like these people are making money, like they're making a lot of money, to put it
another.
nicely. Yeah, one way or another. So how are they making money? Is kind of my question. I mean, these financial firms are, I mean, they have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, depending on where they're at, of assets under management. And so it's like, okay, well, where are they making all their money, and how are they making it? And so you have to, yeah, you got to ask those questions. And
For
I'm
sure.
not saying you're not or anything, but people listening need to know these people are making money. Where is it coming from? And how does it affect what ultimately I earn in the long run?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's, let's address I guess, try to get practical for the people listening. I think there's a misconception out there that, the idea of having a financial advisor is like exclusively for rich people or like,
Mhm.
exclusively for ultra high net worth people. Um, you know, uh, I guess I would say that's not true.
Mhm.
Um, even hearing you, I think some of that probably underlines some of your belief, because you even have made a couple statements like, well, I just don't think my net worth warrants, having a financial advisor.
Mhm.
Um, I just kind of want to, I guess, throw that up. Like, is your view that it's kind of exclusively for ultra high net worth individuals?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think the short answer would be no, I don't think it's exclusively for ultra high net worth. And when you say ultra high net worth, I don't know what we're referring to here. Is it a
Vague.
million net
Yeah,
worth?
that's
Is
a
it
vague.
3 million? I don't know. Um, that said, again, it's like, I think it's pretty simple. It's like, here's your income, live off of less than you make, and then invest the rest, you know? And again, I don't want to oversimplify like financial success, but and then the question is like, okay, well, where do you invest it? You know, and yeah, maybe they can beat it 1 or 2% or something like that, or 3% or whatever. And by it, I mean the market, which is typically 8 to 10% a year. Um, but yeah, is it exclusive to ultra high net worth? I don't think so. But I don't know. Like my dad, they have a financial advisor, and he never used one up until I think it was just like a year or two ago. And their particular financial advisor works with pretty high net worth individuals, but he only works with high net worth individuals who are like they have to be donating a certain amount to charity to even, which I thought was really interesting. They have to be, and they can see your tax returns and how much you're donating and everything. So, I guess the reason I share that is like, they've gotten some sense of, financial prowess without a financial advisor. Um, so, but then, and I haven't even really talked to my dad in depth about like, why did you end up going with a financial advisor, after not having one for 60 whatever years of your life, and then all of a sudden deciding to go with one? Um, I don't,
Well, I think in
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of cases, I think people do take one on at those later stages of life, especially for, it's one thing when you're like, the first 30, 40 years of your life, just shoveling it in retirement accounts, that
Sure.
sort of thing. But then when you get to that stage of like, okay, now how do we actually use this money
Yeah,
for retirement?
that's valid.
Like that's probably where your dad's at. Like, you know, what do I do? Do I just withdraw the money and go spend it? Or,
Yeah.
is there a strategy for
That's
how
what
you
they're
would,
doing.
yeah. Or is there a strategy for how you withdraw it, where you put that money when you get to
Mhm.
that stage of
Well,
life,
and then they have the whole conversation too of like, okay, well, now there's a lot more tax implications. So honestly, that might be one of the biggest things is like when you are a certain net worth, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever it ends up being, and it doesn't, there's no necessary threshold, but there are tax implications that like I'm not privy to at all.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
this
like,
this brings up a good conversation, because there's even at our stage of life, and we're technically in two different stages of life, but in our, where you could say, we don't need one, like there's
mhm,
still there still can be tax implications for how we invest our money at this stage of life, because, even as I've talked with my friend, like depending on your level of income, what tax
mhm,
bracket you fall in, how close you are to the next tax bracket, like it can change how much you're investing on a year-to-year basis, can change whether you should take the standard deduction or do, itemized deductions. It can
right,
change whether there's real, math that can show, depending on your yearly income, you actually can be better off investing in a traditional IRA instead of a Roth IRA, because
mhm,
you can write off the contributions you're making to a traditional IRA, and that can decrease your taxable income. So there's a
right,
whole like there's whole layers of that like are just so far beyond my head, that that's one of the reasons why I'm in my mind, getting a financial advisor at 25, 26 years old will just kind of be there as a shepherd along the way to kind of help
mhm,
me make the best decisions, versus just like naive, oh yeah, I'll always have this Roth. That'll. Always be the best way to go. Um, it's a good conversation there.
Yeah, yeah. The whole tax side of things is, again, like I said, I'm not something I'm privy to at all because it's not interesting to me. So I've never taken the time to, really try and read about it. I have a very, very surface level understanding, I guess, Um, but that, especially when start approaching that retirement age, and then you start thinking, maybe, depending on, how your life played out and everything, like, okay, well, how do I now pass this off to my kids and family members if that's part of our strategy?
Yeah.
And there are tax implications with that, inheritance tax, right? I mean, they'll freaking
Take
tax you on
half of it.
everything. I mean, it's
It's
ridiculous. That's
ridiculous.
another conversation. But yeah, I mean that I could see in and of itself, and I mean, then you could also in some ways just ask a CPA, but I would think a financial advisor. And frankly, I'm not even sure
Yeah.
the real big differences between like a financial advisor and a CPA or accountant. That is a CPA.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think a CPA is allowed to, like, do investment advice. I don't think.
Right.
Like, they're not allowed to, like, manage your retirement accounts or anything. They're just kind of like accounting, bookkeeping, taxes, that sort of, at least that's my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because 'cause we're not professionals and neither of us have,
Right.
but just even, like, thinking super granularly about that whole, like, like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, okay, should I have one or not? Think about your, like, tax situation. If you're a married couple filing jointly, the standard deduction is what? Like, isn't it like just under $30,000 or something? Like 26,000 dollars.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
I don't know,
Google it.
somewhere probably around there. But like, if you've got a mortgage and you're paying your mortgage payment, you can write off the interest that you pay,
Hmm.
especially if you're in like the first 5, 10 years and you're in those years where you're paying a buttload of interest. Um, like all that you can write off. And
Hmm.
so if you can write off the interest you're paying to the mortgage and invest in a traditional IRA and write off the
Hmm.
contributions that you make, and you fall in a, above average, let's say above average yearly income, somewhere between 100 and $200,000, there could be a
Hmm.
reason that you would, like, opt to go that route because, you know, it saves you some money in the long run. And in my
Hmm.
mind, a financial advisor is going to be able to tell me, hey, that's the route you should go, and we're getting super granular here, but there are
Sure.
cases.
Yeah. One, let's end with a really hot button question that might take a
Okay.
little bit longer. But the advent of AI, right? Now people can ask very um like niche specific questions and say, what do you do? And almost and literally have a conversation with AI as though, like, I've literally seen things on X of where people will, this is insane to me, but they'll, like, legal stuff, okay? So not financial industry, law industry. Um, they'll basically have it draft like a manuscript of their proposal for whatever legal stuff they need. I'm speaking in very lame terms here, but whatever. Um, and then instead of having like a lawyer draft it, AI will draft it. They'll take it to the lawyer to like basically correct anything, but they're saving hundreds of dollars because lawyers will charge literally hundreds of dollars an hour to draft things like that. And they're just having AI do it and then taking it to a lawyer and saying, hey, finalize this or whatever. So bring that into the financial industry with all this AI and tech stuff like that, do you think advisors hold as much weight? Or are we just going to ask Siri or Grok or Gemini or whoever for money tips?
I love AI. I use it all the time. I wouldn't say daily, but probably weekly and monthly for
Hmm.
sure for, various tasks. Um, and I think there's probably a lot of, like, resources that could be used for, helping you make financial decisions and providing information on, markets, and can it be used as a tool to help you make, wise investment choices? Sure. I don't see why not. Um, Am I gonna do that? Probably not. am I gonna, trust? It's not a matter of trust, really. It's AI can give me information. It can't invest my money for me.
Right.
Like ChatGPT, Grok, they're not, they can help me kind of analyze, make better decisions, all that. But that's still a time investment of mine, you know, that I don't really
Sure.
want to make.
Sure. So it
So
comes down to
I don't
time
think,
and like,
yeah, I don't think AI is going to take over the jobs of financial advisors. Is what I'm trying to say.
at
I
some
don't
point,
see
like
that
you need
happening.
human judgment.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what you're saying, at
Yeah.
least in some ways. Interesting, because like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I could literally just put in all of my financial picture into ChatGPT, whatever. Say we have this much equity in our house. We have an investment property with this much. Here's how much we have in stocks. Here's how much we have in 401k. Here's how much, et cetera. Just list everything out, right? And say, what would be the best plan of action in order to have my money appreciate the most? And just and see what it says. Like what would you and you can even tell the AI, speak as though you are a financial advisor and tell me what I should do.
Yeah, I have
Maybe
no doubt. I mean,
it might be interesting.
I would do it. Like I would be willing to try that and see what it says. And I trust AI. I trust, all of this. Like I'm not an anti AI person, but what it comes down to
Sure.
for me is that like then I still have to do it. And the whole point is that I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's valid. Um, Closing thoughts. Anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Financial advisor. Yes or no? For you, yes.
it,
For me, maybe.
circumstantial.
There you go.
You know, should you have a financial advisor? I don't know. It's a circumstantial sort of thing. I think for most people, it's probably a good thing. But then again, most people, and we're using that phrase literally,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
most people are not saving for retirement. Most people are,
Right.
living paycheck to paycheck. So this isn't even a financial advisor is not going to help with that. It's like they've got to fix their behaviors. They got to get on track.
Right.
There's a whole lot of other things they got to figure out before a financial advisor even enters the picture.
So
Um,
true.
I mean, just to be frank.
So then what do you
So
suggest people do?
get your life together. A financial
That's
advisor is
right.
not going to fix your bad behaviors.
Yeah, come on, dude.
I mean,
Come on.
like a financial advisor is not going to fix your bad behaviors. They're not going to fix your bad financial habits. Like
Yeah.
if you're considering a financial advisor,
You
it's
need to go
because
see a
you've,
psychologist or a
yeah,
psychiatrist, whatever.
yeah. If you're considering a financial advisor, it should be because you've already got your head on your shoulders and you know what you're doing with money, and you're just weighing how much time investment you want to put into planning this
Mhm.
for the future. And
Yeah.
so if that's you, let's talk. I mean, come, drop a comment. Like, let's strike up a
Mhm.
conversation. See,
And then
just
that
based on
leads to
where you're at.
how can they talk with us? How
Yeah,
can they connect with us?
They can get on Discord and join our Discord. We're there. Come have a conversation with us. There's not a lot of happening there, but we made it so that anybody that wants to have a conversation can come and just join a conversation. We're not professionals. We're just people figuring this out like you are. So,
Mhm.
uh, join the Discord, subscribe on YouTube here, go follow us on TikTok and, just join the conversation.